Hi, in this video, let's talk about a typical timeline for a PNP application. I have some of the comments online which asks that what's a typical timeline looks like if anyone is going through a PNP application. So first thing on the PNP that we need to understand is that there there are PNPs where you cannot apply directly, right? And then there are PNPs where you can apply. Okay, so those PNPs where you can apply, like for example I did for Alberta, those PNP is called a EOI or an expression of interest. So in that PNP program, if you start off with an EOI, and if it's applicable to the province, you check, right? So then you will have to check the EOI process. Usually it's a form online that is available for you to fill it up, and then once you fill it up, it goes uh, to the province immigration team, and they will take a decision on that. Okay, so that's an EOI process if it's applicable to your province. I'll just take my Alberta example to give you the timeline. So the timeline I'm mentioning here is as per my experience. This could be different for different provinces. So once you fill up an EOI, it takes about 24 hours to 2 days, 1 to 2 days to get something called a NOI or a notification of interest. Notification of interest is typically the starting point for your PNP application. So you get a notification of interest, and then that notification of interest will enable you to apply to the to the provinces. So some of the provinces, for some of the PNPs, you will see NOI is the first step, right? You create your express entry profile, you indicate your interested provinces, and if that province does a draw and they find a match between your NOC and your province of interest, they usually send you an NOI or a notification of interest. Now that notification of interest will have the details on what to do next. It will usually have a detailed explanation on what to fill up, what documents to give, so that the provinces can check and provide you with the final nomination. Like for example, in Alberta, when I did my did my EOE and got my NOI, it they sent me a mail to how to create a profile online, and then it had some timelines. Like I had 30 days to create my profile, and then 60 more days to submit my documentations. Okay, so depending on how complex or how easy the NOI process is, what I have seen is it takes around 3 to 4 days to fill up those NOI forms, and so I have not included that in the timeline because it depends on individuals. You can very well do it in a day if you want, or you can take a few days to do it. So it all depends on how urgently are you doing it, and how prepared the documentation is, if you need to get or fetch some few more documentation. Once you fill up your NOI, usually there is a cost involved at this stage. You have to pay a processing fees for that particular NOI. So you pay your NOI, provide all your documentation, and then it goes to the province immigration team. After that, province will take some time to review those documentation, right? In Alberta, I think it took around couple of weeks for me to do the full checkup. In this time, they would seek additional information if they want, or they would seek any kind of additional documentation if they want to do any clarification, do any checks with your employers or your HR. So all the verification by the province happens in these couple of weeks. I have heard it can take up to more than a month also, but for me, I think it took around 2 weeks to complete for the province to complete this whole process. Once this process is complete, it usually ends with providing you what is called a certificate of nomination. Now, certificate of nomination is an official documentation that the province gives you to confirm that they are nominating you for a permanent residency. Once you receive this certificate of nomination, usually it's on a protected email that you will get. So what happens is, this certificate of nomination is kind of transmitted to your Express Entry profile. Okay, so Express Entry profile in you should also, after you get a certificate of nomination, I think it takes around usually it takes around few hours, but it can take up to 1 or 2 days to get this notification into your Express Entry profile. So you will get a update on your email saying that your Express Entry profile has been updated, and if you go and check it, it will usually say that you have received a nomination from a province. So you do that, and you will have some time to accept that nomination. So once you accept that nomination, what happens is there is a timeline to accept the nomination. You have around 30 days to accept that nomination. Once you accept that nomination, you will get the additional 600 points for PNB, depending on how your job offer thing is, right? You can get more than 600 points in that job category, but I think they only allow a maximum of 600 points. So like for example, me, I had a job offer and a PNP nomination, so my total points was 650, but I got only 600 points, so that's okay. So you get those additional points for PNP nomination, and then you are PNP nominated. That's about it you can do for PNP, and then after that it takes the same time as for, and then after that the process is same for any other PR application. The only difference is that now you are also qualified as a PNP candidate. So for example, you earlier met CEC or FSW criteria, and now you also meet PNP criteria, and now you will have to wait for the next PNP draw, depending on when you got the nomination. It could be next day, or it could be up to 2 weeks. So usually the PNP draw is happening every 2 weeks. Once that draw happens, and hopefully you have enough points. Right now draws are pretty low, like around 700 points, so it's pretty low. 700 points means it's for a person who only has 100 points in Express Entry, and 600 points were given by the provinces. So 700 points in Express Entry is pretty low score. I think the minimum score is around 70, right? So 100. So right now the PNP scores are draws are really low. So hopefully if you have around 800-900 points, you will easily get it. So once the PNP draw happens, again it can take up to 1 or 2 days to get an ITA. So once and it can happen the same day also. For me, I think I received it the same evening, but I've heard people getting it next day also. So you get an ITA. You go and look at the ITA. ITA gives you 60 full days. So say if you receive it in the evening of the same day, you usually get that day plus 60 days to fill up all the documentation, and these 60 days are calendar days, not working days. So these 60 days you will have to collect all the documentation and provide to the application. The only thing that you need to do before this, like usually even Express Entry profile suggests, is that ideally you should already have your police verification and things, those kind of documentation, because that takes a lot of time. So I would suggest, as soon as you start your EOI process, start your police verification process also, because it takes around 3 to 4 weeks to complete. Some of the police verifications are very fast, like a US verification is very fast. They do it within a couple of days, but then for that also you need to take fingerprints and things like that, which can take few more days. So if you have your police verification document ready at the time you receive your ITA, then the only thing that you need to do after you get an ITA is to schedule a medical checkup. Do an upfront medical checkup. That is always suggested. That's always is faster, and then you are sure that you have filled up all the documentation. So get your confirmation of your medical checkup, have your police verification ready, and after this most of the documentations you should have already, because like for example for me, when I did my EOE and NOI, the kind of documentations the province has asked for were more or less similar to what I submitted for ITA. Maybe it was updated for some dates and all, but most of the documentations were same. So I was prepared with the whole set of documents. Provinces usually don't take police certification, but I had it ready anyways. So, and they don't take medical also. So once you get your medical confirmation, all the documentations, ITA for me, in my experience, filling up those details take lesser time than it did for my province thing, mostly because I think I had already created my express entry profile earlier, and I was just adding some more details to it. So maybe that's the reason I felt like that. But yeah, so 60 days is more than enough to fill up all your documentation online. And once you do that, submit your express entry profile, pay the fees as per your number of family members, and that's it. So once you submit your PR application, after that you get something like a AOR. AOR is acknowledgement of receipt. Acknowledgement of receipt is a document usually confirming that your application has been received, and based on it, if you are on a work permit, you can get a bridge open work permit to continue working till your PR application is adjudicated. AOR takes around 1 to 2 days to get after your PR application has been submitted online. I know AOR can take longer for paper application, but online it's usually very quick. It's either the same day or next day. So once you get AOR, I think AOR will have all the details on the next steps. It says it will take around 6 months to adjudicate your case in most of the cases, and if you are coming through PNP, they have a mandate of 6 months anyways, not depending. It doesn't depend from where you are applying. If you qualify for PNP, even if you are an outland candidate, it would be adjudicated within 6 months. That's what the timeline on the Ircc website says. It doesn't ask you whether you have applied from inside Canada or outside Canada. It just says if you are a provincial nominee, it takes around 6 months. So since I'm concentrating on the timeline, assuming that we are a PNP nominee or are interested in PNP nomination, so that's about amount of time it takes from AOR to COPR, and the timeline starts when you submit and when you get your AOR. Between this AOR and COPR will happen all the validations and checks by the federal government. They will check your medical history, police verification, if they need any kind of biometrics, if they need any kind of additional information, they will ask you via email or via a call, and that verification and everything will happen at this stage between AOR and COPR. COPR is confirmation of PR. That's the kind of timeline it takes for me. I am right now at the AOR stage. I'm waiting for the 6 months to get my COPR, but that's about in my experience, this was a typical timeline it took me for the whole process. So that's it from my side for this video. I hope this helps you and give you an idea of the expected timeline and how much time it can take end-to-end process. It can obviously vary from province to province and case to case, but this is a typical timeline that I'm keeping in mind for my application, and hopefully for it can help others also. So thank you for listening, and if you have any questions, put it on the comments. I'll be more than happy to help. And that's it, and all the best for your applications. Thank you.